It's 1944, and America is about to win a war. With food behind barbed wire in Texas, a group of German prisoners of war huddle around their first American meal. They're laughing. Mockingly, "Look at this," one sneers in German, poking at a thick steak with his fork. "The Americans think this will impress us?" Another holds up white bread, shaking his head. "Soft like cotton. Where's the substance?" They've been told stories about American weakness, about a nation that's never known real hunger. But then, one prisoner takes a bite. His laughter stops. His eyes widen. This wasn't weakness. It was power. And in that moment, everything they believed about America was about to shatter. This is the untold story of how food became America's most powerful weapon in World War II. By 1945, while Europe starved, over 400,000 captured German prisoners of war were feasting inside America. Scattered across more than 500 camps, these weren't just any soldiers, many were hardened Wehrmacht veterans. SS officers, men who had conquered half of Europe. The Geneva Convention was clear. Prisoners must be fed the same rations as American troops. But here's what the Nazis never expected. American soldiers ate like kings. While German civilians survived on 1,200 calories a day, American GIs were getting over 4,000. The contrast was staggering. In Germany, ersatz coffee made from acorns, bread stretched with sawdust, meat so rare. It was practically mythical. In America, real coffee, fresh bread, and more meat than most Germans had seen in years. What happens when your enemy eats better than your own allies? Camp commanders watched nervously. As trains pulled in with their human cargo, these were the enemy, men who had killed American boys. But they were about to witness something unprecedented, the slow, methodical destruction of Nazi ideology. One meal at a time. Picture Camp Hearn, Texas, August 1943. The first group of Afrika Korps prisoners shuffles into the mess hall. Sunburned, defiant, still wearing pieces of their desert uniforms. On their metal trays, roast beef, mashed potatoes, green beans, white bread with butter, coffee, and apple pie. The reaction was immediate. "Propaganda," whispered Obergefreiter Klaus Weber in his diary. "They're trying to trick us with this feast. Tomorrow we'll get the real prison food." But tomorrow came, and the next day, and the next, the same abundance. Every single day, Sergeant Heinrich Müller wrote to his wife, "I don't understand. Are they trying to make us fat before they execute us?" These men had spent years watching. German rations shrink, black bread that felt like concrete, watery soup with floating vegetables, coffee that wasn't coffee at all. Now they faced a bewildering choice between white bread and wheat bread, between beef and pork, between three different kinds of vegetables. Could this overwhelming abundance be America's most unexpected weapon? At first they ate suspiciously, waiting for the catch, but the catch never came. One prisoner, Hans Kruger, had been surviving on 800 calories a day before his capture in Tunisia. Now he was getting 5 times that amount. "The guards eat the same food," he noted in shock, "the same portions. This isn't special treatment. This is how Americans always eat." That realization hit like a physical blow. If this was normal, what did that say about everything they'd been told? They came as enemies and began changing over dinner. The transformation didn't happen all at once. It started with small moments, quiet epiphanies over dinner trays. Take Johann Fischer, a 22-year-old Panzer driver from Bavaria. He'd grown up during the Depression. In Germany, he remembered his mother watering down milk to make it last. He remembered going to bed hungry more nights than not. The Nazi Party had promised prosperity, strength, through unity, but the war brought only ersatz, everything, and empty stomachs. Now he stared at his first American hamburger, ground beef, thick as his fist, cheese melted over the top, lettuce, so green it looked artificial, a bun soft enough to collapse in his grip. He took a bite. The flavor exploded across his tongue, rich, salty, satisfying in a way he'd almost forgotten food could be. But it wasn't just the taste, it was the waste. American. Prisoners threw food away, actual food. Bread crusts, vegetable scraps, coffee grounds that looked better than what Germans called coffee. To them, this wasn't just food. It was proof America had already won. "They throw away more than we eat," wrote prisoner Otto Brenner, "and they do this casually, without thought, as if abundance is their birthright." That casual abundance was more devastating than any interrogation. These men had been told America was weak, decadent, soft, en bas, nation that would crumble under pressure. But you can't fake this kind of prosperity. You can't manufacture abundance from nothing. The food told a story. Their propaganda couldn't explain away. America was rich beyond German comprehension, and they were sharing it with their enemies. By winter 1944, something remarkable was happening in POW camps across America. The mockery had stopped. In Camp Alva, Oklahoma, German prisoners began asking American guards about farming techniques, about crop yields, about how America fed 140 million people. While still sending food overseas, the answers shook them. American wheat production, 1.1 billion bushels annually. German wheat production before the war, 150 million bushels for a country with half the population. Guard Captain Robert Hayes later recalled, "You could see it in their faces." The math didn't lie. Everything they'd believed about American weakness was crumbling. Food became the bridge between enemies. Prisoners began trading English lessons for cooking tips. German mechanics taught American guards about engines, while learning American agriculture. But the most profound changes were happening internally. Prisoner diaries from this period reveal a stunning transformation. "How can a nation this wealthy choose war?" wrote Hermann Stolle. "They have everything. Why do they need to conquer anyone?" Perhaps, noted Ludwig Becker, we were the ones driven by hunger. That insight cut to the heart of Nazi ideology. The Third Reich had promised expansion was necessary for survival. Lebensraum, living space, because Germany couldn't feed its people. But here was proof that prosperity was possible without conquest, that plenty could exist without plunder. Some prisoners began refusing to discuss German politics. Others started asking American guards about democracy, about elections, about how a country chose its leaders without violence. The guards noticed the change. Letters home became less defiant, more thoughtful. Food had done what no amount of propaganda could. It had opened minds. The real test came after the war. As prisoner ships prepared to return to Germany in 1946, American officials made a stunning discovery. Thousands of German POWs didn't want to leave. They'd seen prosperity. They'd tasted freedom. Even behind barbed wire, going back to a destroyed, starving Germany felt like stepping backward into darkness. Many couldn't return. Anyway, the Soviets controlled their hometowns now. Choosing repatriation meant choosing Stalin over Eisenhower, but even those who did return carried something with them, the memory of American abundance in the ruins of post-war Germany. These men became America's most effective ambassadors. They told stories, not about American military might. Germans had experienced that firsthand, but about American kindness to enemies, about a nation so wealthy it fed its prisoners, better than Germany fed its own soldiers. Hans Kruger, the former panzer driver, returned to Bavaria in 1947. He spent the rest of his life talking about his time in Texas, about meals that seemed impossible, about guards who treated prisoners like human beings. When the Berlin Wall went up in 1961, Kruger was living in West Germany. He never considered crossing to the east. "I've tasted American democracy," he told his son. Even their prison food was better than communist promises. The OSS, precursor to the CIA, later estimated that former German POWs, influenced by American treatment, became some of West Germany's strongest anti-communist voices during the Cold War. Food had won a war that bullets alone could not. Today, most people don't know this story. They remember D-Day, Pearl Harbor, the concentration camps, but they've forgotten the quiet revolution that happened in mess halls across America, how roast beef and apple pie did what bombs and bullets couldn't. They changed minds. Those German prisoners witnessed something their leaders swore was impossible, an enemy strong enough to win, yet generous enough to share. It shattered everything they thought they knew about power, about America, About themselves, food wasn't just sustenance. It was proof of what a free society could accomplish, and that lesson, served on metal trays in Texas, Oklahoma, and Georgia, helped rebuild Germany as America's strongest ally. But this was only the beginning, because while German POWs were discovering American abundance, something else was happening inside those camps, something that would challenge everything Americans thought they knew about their enemies. Next time, we uncover the shocking truth about what happened when Nazi soldiers started helping American farmers. The story will change everything you think you know about World War II.